Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chav Ches Amud Aleph, starting with Chav Zayin Amud Beis, 14 lines from the bottom, 2 lines before it gets wide. Our Mishnah taught us that when it comes to making an Erev Techumin, you can use any food item except for water and salt. Agav that, the Mishnah had taught us in regards to Meiser Sheni. What can you go ahead and purchase with your Meiser Sheni money in Yerushalayim and eat that food in Yerushalayim? Everything except for salt and water. The Gemara then brought a machloikis in regards to the Meiser Sheni and states in regards to Meiser Sheni that there was a Mesara in the house of Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish that they would use tzir, they would use the fish brine for Meiser Sheni that they would use to buy Meiser Sheni money with. Rabbi Eliezer said, no such thing. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish said the only thing that's excluded is water and salt, but you can use the fish brine. Rabbi Eliezer says you can't use the fish brine, but what you see from here is that they both agree they can use fish as your meiser for Meiser Sheni. Says the Gemara, "B'mai kamiflegi Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish Rabbi Eliezer, v'hani tanoi delekamon." Because Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish and Rabbi Eliezer both agree that you can use fish for your Meiser Sheni. However, the Tanoim lekamon say you cannot use their fish. Why can't you use fish or Meiser Sheni? The Gemara will explain the machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish Rabbi Eliezer darshi ribui umiyuti, v'hani tanoi darshi kloli uprati. There's 2 different ways, valid ways, that we have a Mesarah to darshan psukim. One is ribui miyut, the other one is klal ufrat. So the Gemara says by ribui miyut, Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish Rabbi Eliezer darshan ribui miyuti. They darshan the first way, the first method of ribui and miyut. And let's read the pasuk in its entirety. V'nosata hakesef bekol asher taiva nafshecha babokar uvatzoin ubayayin ubashechar uvechol asher tishalcha nafshecha v'goymer. Says the Gemara, explaining this first position of Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish and Rabbi Eliezer who darshan ribui and miyut. V'nosata hakesef bekol asher taiva nafshecha, and you will buy with the money of your Meiser money all that you which desire. Ribo, that's a inclusion. Babokar, ubatzoin, ubayain, ubeshechar, all of these are miut, is our exclusions. So if you stop over here, you have a ribui and a miut, whereby the only thing that you can go ahead and use for your Meiser Sheni money would be all of these things that are listed and those things that are similar to it. Then the pasuk goes on to say there's also another ribui. Uvechol asher tishalcha nafshecha. And of all that what your soul desires, chazav riba. So now you're left with a riba, umit, miet, veriba. Riba hakol. Riba says everything. My Rabbi, what does this come to include when you say everything? Rabbi kol mili, everything. Without exception, umay mi'et, but there is an exception. What does the mi'ut come to mi'ait? The Rabbi Eliezer mi'et sir, it's mi'ait one thing. Rabbi Eliezer says it's mi'ait sir, it comes to exclude fish brine. Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish mi'et mayim umelach, the one thing that excludes is the mayim and melach. V'hani tanoi, that's in regards to the machloik, that's in regards to the first position of Rabbi Yehuda ben Godish and Rabbi Eliezer, who accept fish as being used for your Meiser Sheni money. V'hani tanoi darshi klali prati. But the other tanoim, the kamon, they darshan with another method of klal upratu klal. Let's follow the Tanya. V'nosata kes b'kol asher taiva nafshecha. That's a klal. That's a general principle. Babokar uvatzoin ubayayin uvesheicha. This is now prat, this is specific. And if you would stop over here, then you'll be left with only that which is specifically mentioned. However, the pasuk goes on to say another klal. So then we have klat, uprat, uklal. Therefore, you have to then judge the klal to be similar to the prat. Maha prat mifurash pri vigidule karka. Just as the prat has explicitly fruit that comes from fruit, meaning that which comes from something else, and grows, gets its sustenance from the ground. Afkol priu pri vigidule karka. V'tanya idach. We have another brayso that explains the klal of prat to klal differently. Maha prat mifurash vladois haaretz. That it's something that comes out from the descends from the land. Then afkol vlad hearts, meaning anything that's from Maisa that comes out, and it comes out from Maisa Bereishis that was created. My beinayu. Ask the Gemara, what is then the difference between these two brisos? We have one that darshans klal v'frat klal, and the other darshans klal v'frat klal. So what's the distinction between the difference between the two? When one comes out with one as being pri vigdulei karka, whereas the other one says it's vlad uvladois haaretz. Omar Abaye dogim ika benayu. The difference between them is dogim. Whether you learn dogim is one of the things that the Meiser Sheni could then buy. Lamanda Omar pri vigidulei karka. Hani dogim gidulei karka ninu. Dogim is something that gets its sustenance from the ground. Lamanda Omar vlad vladois haaretz dogim imaya ibru. But the other one who darshans the klal v'frat klal and saying that it's vlad uvladois haaretz, that it comes from the ground, that which was created from the earth, that is not going to include dogim because the dogim are created from the mayim. Ask the Gemara, Mia Omar Abaye dogim gidulei karka ninhu. Does Abaye hold that dogim really gets its sustenance from the ground? V'ha Omar Abaye states on top of Chav Ches Amud Aleph, Ochal putisa loike arbo. When it comes to then eating certain creatures, so if they're creatures that are in the water creatures, then you, even if it's less than a kazayis, but you eat the beria, the entire creature, then you're loike arbo. There's 4 different sets of lashes because he's over 4 different lavin. 2 that correspond to the general lavin of eating creatures, whereas 2 additional ones that have to do with the water creatures. Nimola loike chamesh, whereas one who eats a ground creature, namely an ant, even though again it's less than a kezayis, but you eat the entire beria, then he gets malchus, 5 different sets of malchus. 2 correspond to the general, plus the 3 that correspond to the ground. Tzira loike sheish, a hornet, which is a flying creature, he gets 6 malchus. You have 2 general ones, 3 that refer to the ground, and a 6th one that refers to the flying creature. V'im isa, and if it's so that Abaye holds that indeed that which grows from that which is in the water does not get its sustenance from the ground, then putisa nami lilki mishum hasheretz al haaretz. Then putisa should not just get 4 malchus, because if Abaye is saying that, what Abaye said before was that he's saying that it's gidula, that it is coming from the ground. That means it does get its sustenance from the ground. Then the putisa, which is a water creature, gets its sustenance from the ground, whereby it should get not 4 malchus, but a total of 7, because it should be the 5 that get from the ground, the 2 general plus the 3 ground, plus in addition to that, the 2 that are miyucha to the water. 7 sets of malchus for 7 different lavin. So we see from here that indeed it can't be that they're arguing about dog. Ela Omar Ravina. Rather, Ravina says, what is the machuz between these 2 brises? Explain both klal ufrat klal differently. Oifois ike benai. The difference between the 2 brisos is oifois as follows. Lemanda Omar pri vigidule karka. Hani nami gidule karka ninhu. This also oifois gets its sustenance from the ground. Lemanda Omer vladois haaretz. Hani oifes minare kak nivru. But the other one who says that it comes from the earth, that which was created in Maisa Bereishis, on the earth, that was not going to be included oifos because the oifos comes from the swamp. It was created from the swamp. Now ask the Gemara, why do each one darshan differently? Man de marbi oifois my time may. What is the reason why each one darshans the way it does? They're both darshaning klal lefrat klal. So why do they come out differently in terms of whether one says pri upri, that is going to be gidulim min karka, whereas the other one says vlad uvladas haaretz? Man de merabe oifois, the one that includes oifois, that means he's learning pri upri v'gidulei karka. Kesover klala basra davka. In the klal uprat uklal, he learns that the second klal at the end is essential, is the primary one. And therefore, prat v'klal, nase klal, musaf ala prat. V'israbu luhu kol mili. Because then you're left with prat uklal. And since prat uklal means that the klal is coming to, they basically say you have all of the things, which is not limited. You have first the prat and the klal that follows. The klal that follows says that you have then the general inclusion of everything. The ahanu klal kamo, and the first klal in the klal to prat klal then comes to then limit it. Limeute kol deloi dami le mishnei tzdadim, comes to limit it, which doesn't have these two aspects. And therefore, it's only pri v'pri, that's geduli min karka. Whereas the other Manda Amar learns the klal of prat klal differently. He says not this primary is the second klal, the primary is the first klal, as follows. Uman de memayit oifois, he comes to exclude oifois because he learns vlad vladois mina oretz. He learns as follows. Kisover klala kama davka, the first klal of the klal of prat klal, that's the essential primary one. And therefore you're left with klal ufrat. You have the klal and then you have the prat. What does that teach me? The klal ufrat. Ve'ein bechlal ela mashe beprat. You only have in the klal which is mentioned in the prat. Hani in midi achrini lo. You only have those specific things that are mentioned when you have a klal ufrat. But now that you have the klal that what came before, so it comes to then add v'hani klal basro. That comes afterwards, rather. The second klal comes l'ribuye called damile mishlosh stadim. The second klal says it's not limited to that which is just mentioned in the prat, but it comes to then include that which is similar to which is in the prat, and therefore you're left with the vladois haaretz, because that's going to then be dami to the shloshet stadim, both pri upri v'gidulei min karka. That's two plus the third that we're mentioning, vlados haaretz. Says the Gemara weiter, Amar Yehuda mishmei derav Shmuel bar Shilas mishmei derav. What are the things that a person can make with the various items that he can make the eruv tchumin with? Says the Gemara, ma'arvin befapuin uvachal galogois uvegudgodiniois. He can go ahead and make eruv tchumin with various things called afapuin, certain herbs, different types of plants. Not with chazis, which is a unripened type of tvua, which still remains green, and not with the knafios, which are unripened dates. Uvegudgodiyos mima arvin, asked the Gemara, can you make an eruv with gudgodiyos? V'hatani, it states gudgodiyos mirube bonim yoichlu chasuche bonim lo yoichlu. Only those who have many children can eat it. But this gudgodiyos, this coriander, is harmful for the seed of a person, whereby if you children not eat it. V'imhu zera af bonim lo, and it's hard. Dogs become then it's dangerous for them to have many children. So why can Ma'ara make eruv with coriander is going to mental? Gemara tir. We're talking about those coriander get hard, and therefore we're talking those have many use that for their techum. You can say even those who do not drink can use eruv techum. Since it's fit to be used to have children, therefore let teach that principle. Even the cannot wine or ate anything from grape derivatives, so you cannot drink wine. Still, you can use wine for your Eruvin. Also, although he truma, use truma erev tchumin. Alma chazi lazilahai, fitting him to eat, but it's Yelstein. So this Korean, although I think for somebody with children, but somebody who's fitting, for it's going to eat for him. Ami afra de lechazi lahai chazi lahai. V boys amo, or alternatively, you can give a third different reason why it's valid over here. Kika Rav, when Rav said his din of this coriander was talking about a specific type. Behindukike modai. The one from Madai is considered to be not detrimental, and therefore you can use it as your eruv. As the Gemara over chazis loy, this tvua that grows unripened and it's green, that's something that can go ahead and be used for your eruv. Techumin, asked the Gemara. Is that so? V'ha'om Rav Yehuda Rav kishus v'chazis ma'arvin bahen u'mevarchin. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. V'chazis loy. Can you not use the chazis for your erev techumin? V'ha'om Rav Yehuda Rav kishus v'chazis ma'arvin bahen u'mevarchin aleim bari pri adama. The hops and these types of unripened tevua that is still green, you can use it for your eruv, says Rav, and you can make a bracha even, borei pri adama. So how can Rav say before that you cannot use the chazis? Lo kasha, it's not a difficulty, answers the Gemara. Ha mekami de asa Rav le Bavel, ha lebasa de asa Rav le Bavel. Before Rav came from Bavel, he said that you cannot use them for your erev techumim. However, once he came from Bavel, he said that he saw that they do go ahead and eat these chazis. Therefore, he said you would make a berei pri adama on it, and you can use it for your tchumin. Ask the Gemara, but Bavel have yaruba da alma, because he saw that they ate in Bavel the chazis. That's going to be then valid for your tchumin, your erev tchumin. Hare, just because they do it in Bavel, does that mean to say that that's going to be valid for everywhere else? V'hatanya. Hapul v'haseoiro v'hatiltalin shezorin liyerek botla daita etzel kolodam. If you're going to have bean, barley, and till, then seed the yerek for its seed, but not seed. Say it's the mikol. We're not going to that's valid, even though he wants it for the ikach and zoron v'yakar seed obichin meiser for the green. Then planting it for the green, the unripened green. It's not chayiv in meiser. Shechalai hagar shezorek misin yerek. Vizera. The Brisa continues and says, Shachalayim and Gargir, that you go ahead and plant it for its Zera and for its Yerek, then both things, whereby Serin ends, they're going to enter for both. The green unripened for the seed. Zora, if they seeded only for the seed, Misasin Zera, V'Yerek. So you see that the question that we're left with is that over here, how can you go ahead and, because Rav, after he left Bavel, said that it's now fitting for an Erev, in Bavel, just because they did in Bavel, Batla died in the Kolodam. And Kiko Rav, when he said this, top of Chaf Beis, Agununa, he got a certain planted in. Everybody is edible. Whereby such a chazis, that's something that everybody would eat, and therefore you can use it for your erev techumin. Says the Gemara, now, based on the chazis that we said before, we said the chazis is something that if you use it, you use the zera, the gargir, you're going to be chayiv for meiser. Ask the Gemara, zera gargir lemay chazi. What is it fitting that you're going to be chayiv and meiser for this zera? Rabbi Yochanan explains the significance. Shekain rishonim shelo haya lahem pilpulin. Earlier, the people did not have pilpul to give a type of taste. They didn't have it as a way of seasoning their meat. Shoichkin oiso, they would take the zera gargir and they would grind it. Umatvilin boy esatzli, and they dip their roasted meat into this grounded zera gargir, and this would give it a flavor. So therefore, it has significance whereby it would be chayiv in meiser.